morning, everybody. My name is Martin Avison. I'm founder of Angelgroups. We're a national angel network. We've got about 1,000 members, members of the UK Business Angel Association. And today, I'll just talk about a number of things around just kind of angel investment and some of the challenges as founders find as they're going out there trying to raise investments. So I say, Martin Avison, I've raised millions in debt, equity and grant funding, own and run several angel investment groups. We've got groups literally all over the country. We've got members all over the country, in fact, in different countries as well now. We've got about 1,000 angel investors and family offices that invest via us. My master's dissertation was on commercializing angel-backed businesses because they've got some unique challenges around how we commercialize businesses that have not got a brand, not got traction. You know, how do we go to market? How do we actually commercialize them? And what's those challenges that we've got as those early stage businesses to get that market traction? Because that seems to be a key problem in growing and scaling a business. It's finding those sales, it's getting that traction. I've also co-authored several of the UK Business Angel Association's due diligence guideline documents. So I've been in and around this space for a good period of time, and very briefly just how we work as a group. It's one central platform that connects in lots of different groups and other angel networks that allows them to share deals, opportunities, and brings everybody together. And it's how we can get out in front of so many investors just literally through the use of technology. And this is just some of the businesses that we're working with at this moment in time, supporting funding. This is just a snapshot of our platform where companies come in, they register, they tell you the sectors they're interested in, the valuations, where they're based. And then down at the bottom of the screen, you can see the angels' names as they've registered. And if you go into the platform, you can access the Dropbox, the pitch recordings, the DD sessions, and you can even connect to the angels that have got backgrounds with other pastimes. So it's a very kind of cohesive thing that we've tried to develop that allows angels to connect to angels, because sometimes you want to speak to another investor that can bring that knowledge to the table. So today's agenda, just a little bit about journey, valuation. We'll look at passive and active investment, what angels are looking for, and then creating the perfect pitch. To be honest, I've got half an hour, so we're not going to have a lot of time to talk about creating the perfect pitch. But if you put my name into Google with the word Barclays Bank at the end of it, you'll see me running all kinds of sessions around how to pitch. So I've left that one to last because I know it's already out there on the internet. So has anybody been on holiday this year?
All too busy working, I think.
All too busy working, get out of it. If you've not gone, I was supposed to go to Moscow, but you can imagine what happened to that one. But the thing is when we plan to go on holiday and you decide where you're going to Greece, you're going to wherever, you plan and you put your appropriate information together. So you buy your appropriate insurance, you put the appropriate clothes in. If you need suntan cream, you don't just turn up at an airport and hope it's all going to be fine. But we do that within business. Yeah, we don't look at our destination. And what we need to do is focus very much around the destination and how we're going to get there. And then we create a plan. So look at that destination point as a starting point and then decide, how are we going to get there? Now, what I would suggest people do, and this is what I did within my business. So I shared that little model at the beginning, and I went out to see somebody who I thought would buy my business before I even started it. I went to see a chairman of a group, a big investment group, and I sat down with him and I showed him it. And he says, that's fascinating what you're looking to do, Martin, really useful. He says, who's going to buy it? And I said, you are. And he burst out laughing. He says, well, you're probably right, Martin. He says, it is the kind of thing we'd buy. I says, it's the reason I'm here. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to validate the exit. I want to make sure that when I get to where I'm going, to Greece, to Bermuda, wherever, that it actually is what I'm expecting it to be. Because I'm going to put a lot of time and effort into getting there. So I want to make sure this is what I want. So one of the fundamental challenges in that planning, and this is a recurring issue that I see all the time when businesses come to me, is they come to me and they say to me, Martin, I want £600,000. And I'll say, all right, very good. To do what? And they'll say, to do this. And they kind of explain what they're going to use the £600,000 for, which is a broad range of things. But to me, there's no thinking about that process. There's no thinking about the investment process, what dilution looks like to you as a founder, because surely as a founder, the plan here is to get to the end and to have hopefully the biggest glass of wine at the party. Because it's too late once you get there to unravel it. You need to start thinking about that plan, that process now. So what I would suggest is we're doing here is that going back to the old Pareto principle that customers get 80% of the benefit from 20% of the utility, the features, is to really focus in on what it is that the customer actually needs. Not trying to develop the perfect thing. Microsoft didn't launch version 11. They launched version 1. And if it's good enough for them, start launching, start getting the product to market, testing it, getting that core benefit out there, and then you'll get engagement from your customers, and you'll actually find out that in actual fact, what you thought was your roadmap is not what is their roadmap. And you can then develop what people need. The benefit, though, really of doing what I'm suggesting here is that now you don't need to employ as many people. The roadmap to market is quicker. But the key benefit is you're only wanting 20% of the investment, which is easier to raise, but it only equates to 20% of the dilution. So why people, and to me, if I would focus most of my money on the commercial aspect of it, rather than on the tech, I would just do enough tech. I would really go back to investors for my next round, having said, here's my commercial solution. I know I can sell it. I know how to market it. I know what my cost for customer acquisition looks like, because that's where your value, that's where you'll protect your valuation at your next round. Now, I'm going to give you a very, very theoretical description for the next few slides. Yes, it's not grounded anything. I'm going to put some numbers in there to try and bring it to life, but please don't try and analyze it. It's the theme that I'm trying to get across. So over time, the value will increase within your business. That's the general concept I'm going with. Let's face it, if it doesn't, we've all got a problem, haven't we? So what we do is we pick a point in that time continuum and we try and add a value to it. So we've got to pick a starting point, and what does it look like? Now, there's a number of things that we can do. So you've got to ask yourself what your business worth today. Now, normal businesses are working kind of on a net profit. So if you've got kind of a 500,000, you could achieve a 5 times X. So you might say it was 2.5 million. Of course, a lot of businesses coming to us with no profit. We're not making money, Martin, we're pre-revenue. Some businesses, you're a SaaS solution, well, when you're selling the business, these are valuations that we're talking about here, of course, when you're selling, not valuation today. So a SaaS solution company may get a 10, 15, 20 times multiple. Again, you can see the difference in valuation and how it occurs. Or this could be a strategic purchase. And this is what I would get you as founders to think about. A friend of mine told me a story. It was a long time ago, but it was perfectly, well, he insists it was true. I wasn't there, but I believe him. He used to work in the purchasing department of a large airline group. And he made a mistake. And what he did is he purchased glycol. And glycol is a material that you spray on aeroplanes to stop them frosting over. And it's a legal requirement. You don't have a choice. It'd be cheaper to spray whiskey. It's expensive stuff. Anyway, he made a mistake on his purchase order. And they phoned him up from the warehouse and said, you need to come down here and look at this. He says, we've got lorries outside of glycol. He said, surely you made a mistake. Anyway, he checked his orders. He went down. He had made a mistake. And he'd ordered over 100 times what he wanted. And his boss called him in. And he said, we've got a real problem. He said, some prat has just bought all the glycol in the world. He says, he says, we're grounded, we're going nowhere. And he says, well, I've got some good news there and I've got some bad news, boss. He says, firstly, he says, I'm the prat. But secondly, he says, we've got plenty of glycol. He says, we've got a warehouse that's absolutely full. The point is of that story is their share price went through the roof. The guy actually sold it back to the industry and made over £7 million. My friend got a £50,000 bonus and a kick up the backside. But the point is of the strategic importance to that industry. Now, if you've got such a strategic importance, you won't be looking at valuations that we're talking about here. If you own a key part of a supply chain, the difference you can make to your valuation is material. So we're going to put some numbers around this and give you a little bit of theory. So for an example, we're talking about here as a company that's going to raise 700,000 for 35% of the company at a 2 million pre-money valuation. Over time, they're going to use that money to go up that value graph and create value within their business. And this is what the cap table would look like. These are very simple figures, by the way. We don't need to get hung up on those. And then what happens again is they bring in some more investment. They do another round. They do another round. And they keep on diluting as they go on their journey. Please don't worry about the figures. Yeah, you probably get it at a better price than 30% on your second round. I appreciate this is purely to illustrate a point. So what I encourage people to do is, by going back to that Pareto principle of the 80-20, is just do enough that needs to be done. Now, this is predominantly talking about your first round, because when you get to your second round, yeah, Martin, we need large amounts of money because we then need to really scale. So this is predominantly talking about your first round. So now what we're going to do is we're going to raise 350,000 at half the valuation, half the money, half the valuation. We've not changed anything. The information at the top of the screen we've just dealt with. This is what the cap table would look like. So we've halved the money, we've halved the valuation. Yeah, we're only, of course, going to go half the journey. But now we're going to increase the valuation. We'll increase the price. So we're getting it now at a better price. And by so doing, this is what the cap table looks like. So we've now we've raised 700,000, just like the first round. But we as founders, and I'm a founder, I own 75% of my business as opposed to 65%. And it's using the same numbers. It's just getting that mindset. Now, it's harder because a lot of founders say to me, I spend my lifetime raising money. It does take time. But this is why we're doing it. We want to make sure that we're the guys that walk away from it at the end of the day. I want to look after my investors. I spend my life with investors. Of course we do. But at the end of the day, the investors want you to make a success out of it for you, because if you're successful, they're successful. And the numbers go on, and I've used the same numbers for 30% on each one just to give you an equivalent comparison. But we all know that it'd be much lower than that, providing the company's doing well. But if I go online at this moment in time and just look for companies just buying and selling, I just went online just to pull a few into the presentation. You can see what people are doing and the asking prices that people are coming up with just today. So an asking price of 550,000, they've got a turnover of $1 million. Companies come to me with no turnover and ask for a valuation of 10 million. It's very hard for an investor to equate to that. Because if you're buying even a small business like that one, you're buying customers. This one, an asking price of 5.5 million with a turnover of 5 million. So how do you increase your valuation? It's that strategy. There's a number of things, I'm just about to come on to them. So your exit valuation is based not only on, but to me, 3 key variables. Firstly is the profit. Now, there are certain industries where it's annualized revenue and profit doesn't seem to matter in some industries. Never understood it myself, but some industries work that way. Certainly the brewing industry works that way. They work on market share. It works on your strategy and the amount of shares you still possess. So I'm all about working with people to make sure you've got a strategy in all these 3 areas to make sure that it maximizes what you're looking for. Because we don't get a second chance to undo it once it's done. Once you're on this treadmill of raising and doing what you're doing to get to where you want to be, yeah, it's hard and very hard to unpick, especially when you're in the details. So the next theme I'd just like to briefly cover is passive and active investment. So what's the difference between the two? Both can be right for your business. Yeah, I'm not here to push one as opposed to the other. It's whatever works for you. So if we look at the different type, angel and crowd. So both do equity and debt. One is active and passive. So we've got angels that will be active and then other angels get behind them and support what they're doing. And then the other being more passive based. The location. Angel, they always used to say angel used to be local, and they always used to say that angels invest in a 50-mile radius of where they live. That's what the research said. And I can, to an extent, agree with that because we've got groups all over and we do it for that reason, because angels like to invest within an area, geographical location, and they don't want to be traveling 300 miles to sit on a board. However, crowdfunding to me has changed that slightly, and our angels now are chairmen of boards and ladies of boards all over the country. So it's not quite what it used to be, I don't think. With angels, you have a few angels on a deal. With crowd, it's few. It's very important if you're going crowdfunding, you make sure that there is a structure for managing the cap table. So they want to invest through a nominee structure, ideally, so that the nominee structure appears on the cap table, and that's what owns the shares. Creates a secondary market for doing it. Crowdcube have done that. Cedars have done that. Great, brilliant, it works. What you don't want is a crowdfunding organization where you have 300 people appearing on your cap table, because that is nightmare city. You just wouldn't want to go there. Of course, the fundamental benefit of angel investment is hands-on. They can really help. The crowd's not applicable. It's just, that's not what it's there to do. It's there to raise larger amounts of money. Angel is face-to-face. You'll get to meet them. Crowd's web-based. The valuation's premium for angel because what they're doing is they're factoring in their time, their experience. With a crowd-based model, some of the valuations I just don't understand. I can't kid you otherwise. I just don't understand. And the problem is, whilst it looks really good for a founder at that first round, it is an absolute nightmare on your second round if you've been overvalued the first time round. The number of people that come to me and just say, Mike, we cannot raise money. We just can't do it. It's because they've raised a terrible price the first time. And others are just looking at it and saying, I'm just not prepared to do it. Then everybody has to take a down round and it just becomes a challenge. So following investment, angel, it's expected. With a crowd, it can be quite difficult. I don't see too many second rounds on crowdfunding, but other people may have different experience, and I see that. Angel investment the reach is limited. Obviously, crowdfunding is worldwide. You can put something out on the web and it see it. So it really does work for scale, for distribution, and for promotional activity, which angel investment that's not what it does at all, but the crowd is brilliant for that. It works really well. Your terms are set by the crowdfund, they're negotiable with an angel. They'll expect to negotiate, and they will expect to negotiate. And let's face it, they'll only negotiate in one direction. So it's worth building that into your valuation, knowing that you're going to dilute. And their motivations, a lot of angels, in fact, I've had a number of calls recently where angels have just said to me, Martin, I'm not really bothered about making money. You know, if you give me another 5 million of something, he says, I'll just open the cupboard and throw it in. I'm more interested in helping and giving some value back. Now, I would have to say they're in the minority. The vast majority of them want to see a return, but they also want to help. They want to keep the grey cells working. And the crowd, again, a lot of personal motives come into the crowd. People do things because it's a tennis app and they play tennis and they want to see it come out. And it's a much lower risk point. So it's easier to gauge, but their motivations can be completely different. So what is an angel looking for within a business? Well, 93% of angels, it's around skills. This is all UK BAA research. So it's all around skills and people, team. I cannot begin to tell you it's fundamental. I used to work within an organization that get 5,000 business plans a year. And all we ever did is you can't read 5,000 business plans. You just go straight to the team page. Have they got the skills to do that job? We didn't look at the numbers, nothing else. If they hadn't got the skills, no. Yeah, people, because it's people that deliver results. So 89% were looking for the growth and scale, expected returns, realistic valuation. Strong product, disruptive. 43% comes from a trusted source. So somebody like me, because we'll check it before it goes to them. So we're not wasting their time and their efforts. 39% because they can contribute to a business's success. 28% want that clear exit, and 25% are looking for that social impact.
Okay.
SEIS is critical. Typically, they're spending 1.6 days a week in a business. 69% invested one in five business, 79% part of a syndicate. I'd say syndicates, we very rarely do deals where one individual's involved. It's usually a syndicate, 5-10 people. It's usually of that magnitude. 25% invest less than 20,000. 27%. Now, these are really important numbers because it can give you a feel, if you're looking for angel investment, how many angels you actually need to be looking for to get the quantum you need. 20% between 50 and 100, and 28% over 100,000. So that really helps you thinking as to what's that quantum I need? So therefore, how many angels roughly should I expect to look for and find? 57% expect to hold investments 3 to 5 years, 20% 6 to 7. But the average time to an exit in the UK is between 8 and 9 years. So when people come and tell us that they're going to exit in 3 to 4, yeah, they're probably not. They're probably not. The ones that I think are most likely to do it are the ones who are patent rich, because people often just come along and buy a patent. I think I see those happen, but in the majority of times, it takes companies longer than they think to do the thing that they're going to do. 86% of angels invest because of SEIS, and 78% invest in the riskier because of it. So without it, it does make it challenging. Not impossible, because some angel investors are retired. Giving them tax breaks on their earnings is irrelevant because they don't earn anything. But this is a key thing to investment. And 87% of deals either use SEIS or EIS. And let's just give you a little bit kind of context around this. Just before I just get into this pitch, I think my key thing that I would say to founders is we've got to get this strategy right at the beginning. We've got to make sure that our valuation's right. I cannot begin to tell you, please focus on the commercials. Most companies just get the money and want to spend it on tech. And it's kind of, if you don't prove that commercial model by the time you go to your next round, you're going to find it painful. You please prove that commercial model. Prove that you can sell it as a team. So we then come along to looking at this pitch deck. I think I haven't set a timer on this, so I'm sure Toby's going to tell me when I've got 5 minutes to go. Yeah, that way I don't run over time. Thank you. So we spend our life running pitching sessions. We run 4 pitching sessions a month, and we're just about to increase it to 6. That's a lot of companies pitching for investment, but we are a very big group. So firstly, the pitch has to be right for your audience. Please make sure if you've got 10 minutes, you spend 10 minutes. If you've got 5, spend 5. You've got to prepare. But prepare it with the right outcome in mind and cover the whole business, not just the technology. People just focus too much, so many slides on tech, but they're business people in the room. What they're looking for is what's the business opportunity. And probably, with respect, most of them are not going to be able to understand the technology, certainly within the time frame anyway. They're going to get a feel for it, but they want to get a feel for the whole commercial opportunity. And is it you that's seen, or are they seeing a number of others? Well, if they're seeing a number of other organizations, there's only so much they're going to remember. So I'm going to show you how to be able to do that within a presentation shortly. So I always say that angels speak German and entrepreneurs speak French, and our job is to translate. And the common language is money. The common language is finance. It doesn't matter what sector an angel's from, the thing they understand is finance. Because if they were in retail, manufacturing, engineering, tech, they all had finance. And it's the thing that's weakest in a presentation from a business. And usually because it's the thing they're most uncomfortable talking about, but it's the thing that they'll most understand. You really do need some good financial help around you to be able to make sure that it makes sense and it's validated. Now, when you pitch, you're not pitching for investment. You're pitching to go to the next stage in an investment process. So nobody is going to say to you, well, it does happen, but it's rare. Okay, love that. Here's £100,000. Include me in the round. I'm off. Thank you very much. What they'll say is, okay, what's next? So you're pitching to go to that next stage. So if that's the case, what's the criteria for the next stage? Well, I can only talk about our areas, but with us, there's 3 key areas. But the biggest part is you. Do I like you? Do I trust you? Because if the answer to that is no, then I'm not going to move forward regardless of anything else. I'm not going to move forward. Now,
Martin, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Some quick story now about bills. So when I raised money for a business a number of years ago, we were raising, in total, we raised 3 million, but we were pitching to a room full of very high net worth individuals. And as we pitched to these individuals, we got to the end of the pitching session and they raised a glass of wine and said, we're in. It was in Edinburgh. It's a very strange way of doing it. It's the other way around. They'd got all their information beforehand and the pitch was at the end of a process, not the beginning. And somebody raised a glass of wine and we said, we're in. And I went up to Bill, the governor of the Bank of Scotland, and I said, Bill, thank you very much for your money. And each of the investors were giving us 100,000 each over 2 rounds, and Scottish Enterprise were matching it with 1.5 million, 15 investors. And I said to Bill, thank you for your 100,000. He says, not a problem, Martin. He says, tell me, what do you do? And I said to him, I said, do you often give £100,000 to someone without knowing what they do? And he says, all the time. He says, and I guarantee you, if you go around this room, he says, this lot won't know what you do either. So I went round the room because I had to do. And I came back to Bill, slightly worse for wear, because I was having a glass of wine with everybody. And I said, okay, Bill, what just happened? And Bill said, not a problem, Martin. He says, and he stood me my back to the wall and he looked at the room. He said, you see that lot? He says, there's not one of them that really understands technology. We were a fintechy type company. He says, and there's not one of them that doesn't understand people. He says, you've got a great team. He says, and it wouldn't matter what you were doing, we'd back you. So it comes down to that people point that I was mentioning. They've got to be front and center. So you're pitching to go to the next stage. The investors are looking for great people. Can the investor help? Is it more than just money? Can they make a difference? And is that offer attractive? Is it a good use of their time and their cash? So investment returns, this is the kind of thing that people are expecting to see. This is what the research says that people get. And this is what you've got to factor in with evaluations from their point of view. This is what they've got to factor in. They know that half of them are just going to fail outright. The problem is they don't know which half. So let's assume you're pitching one of our groups. There'll be 4 or 5 businesses pitching. You'll have 10 minutes. They'll only remember 4 or 5 points on each pitch. Therefore, I always refer to these as my trees. Every business has 4 or 5 compelling reasons to invest. Make sure they understand the 4 or 5 points. If you've got the luxury of interviewing them after the presentation, these are the things you want them to remember. So make sure these really stand out in your presentation. But I refer to them, as I say, as my trees. But what people do is they give me a forest. And now I can't see the points, and I may even end up remembering points that you didn't want me to remember. You want me to remember those key 4 reasons, 5 reasons. So at the presentation, at the end of it, on a summary slide, give me those 4 or 5 points again and tell me what they were. Make sure they really, really stand out. This kind of slide has just never put it on a pitch deck. It is awful. Can go on an information deck if you must, but it'll take 15 minutes. But the moment your audience starts looking at that, you've lost them because they're not listening to you, and you want them listening to you, because 90%, in my opinion, it's my opinion only, and 90% of the thing to go to that next stage is, do I like them? Do I trust them? If the answer to that is no, and they won't get that by reading slides, they'll get that by listening to your passion, your enthusiasm. That's what you want to get across. So that slide could be summarized, forgive me, that slide there could be summarized with that. Well, tell them that. Just have that on a slide. You've communicated the one point, and I always say to everybody, you hire a slide to do a job, just one job, not 5 jobs, one job. With my pitch decks, I often have people with 35 slides because they have so little on them, and it forces your audience to listen to you, just like you're now listening to me, because you read a message, you've got to listen. So creating the perfect pitch, I've left this up there because I know that you're going to share the slides, which will give you the things that we expect to cover on a pitch deck. But awful. Never put a slide deck with all that information in one go. Build it. So your audience has to listen to you, and you bring it a point at a time, and you control them. You force them to listen to you. And all these points, as I say, if you put my name into Google and put Barclays Bank at the end of it, you'll see me running a number of sessions on how to run pitch preps and how to, each one of these points I break down and I go into quite a lot of detail just to help you out. But finish with a call to action and that summary slide with those 4 or 5 key points. So you reinforce them. In the pitch, we tell them, then we reinforce them. And then in the Q&A, you try to make sure you bring them back out again. Thank you very much.
Martin, that was wonderful. Thank you very much.